And we're live. Hello. Hey guys. Sorry we're about 8 minutes late. Sitting here in my lounge room with Dan Kurlapski, one of our 101 tokens experts, and also one of my flatmates. So welcome to the casa. Probably seen it in a few videos. Now Dan is wears many hats, but what we're going to chat about tonight is his expertise in being a mindset coach, and in particular, bucket lists. So as you know, our mantra is to drink less and live more. If you saw the poll that we did earlier in the week, a lot of people were saying they wanted to get fit this year, save cash, spend more time with family, do purposeful shit was a good one. So what we're going to chat about tonight is how do we set those goals and actually achieve them in a practical, semi-step-by-step way. So, you keen, Dan?
Yeah, mate.
If anyone's got anything they want to say, or if they want to chuck in the things that they've got on their bucket list, feel free to add that in the comment, and we can dive deep on that as well.
If there's any good comments, we will be asking some people to come onto the live with us here. So, yeah, get ready for that.
Awesome. All right, so we'll start. We'll start with a little bit about yourself, Dan. You just want to introduce yourself and what you do as a mindset coach, and a little bit about bucket listing.
Yep. So, mindset coach and bucket listing. Basically, I did 52 new experiences in 52 weeks. It was a personal challenge of mine, not last year, but the year before. And it was basically a self-experiment where I wanted to show and prove to myself that throwing yourself at new experiences, regardless of how exciting or non-exciting they were, they would positively transfer into areas of your life that had nothing to do with the actual experience, because the brain actually doesn't know the difference between the two things. So what happens when you throw yourself at a new experience and the new rewiring that occurs and the strengthening of the leap muscle, that can then be used in, say, a board meeting within an office. So, yeah.
Awesome. Good stuff. Hey, Mum. To be happy and healthy, first one off the rank. That's a good one. We can probably dive into that if you stay on to the Facebook Live. One interesting statistic that it keeps popping up and a lot of things that I'm reading, and you talk about it a lot, is that 90 to 95% of all of our decisions that we make are in the subconscious, which for me is like crazy because I guess you feel like you're always in control. How does that apply in the sense of if I'm setting my goal to save cash this year or to run a marathon?
So, firstly, I think it's really, really silly, and it's so human of us to think that we're in control of everything. But really, all that you're making a conscious decision on in your day-to-day is 5% of the operations that you're taking on, and 95% of them are happening at a default level. So just the conditioning, the things that you know that are known to you, that you're used to doing. And so because of this, if you've got goals and if you've set yourself goals, the guy or girl that's going to achieve those goals, whether it be 3 months down the track, 6 months down the track, or 9 months down the track, the way their brain looks in terms of the wiring within their brain is completely different to your brain sitting inside of your head right now. And the reason for that is if it looked like that, if your brain right now looked like the brain of the you that is achieving those goals, then you would already be achieving them. Your current wiring and the decision making you're making based on that wiring is bringing you the results you currently have. And that's all it will bring, unless you do things that are unfamiliar to you, that are uncomfortable, that are unknown to you, and rewire that brain and take a step closer toward it looking like the brain of the person that is achieving and kicking those goals.
Yeah. So that's pretty much a fundamental part of anyone can sit there and write a bucket list of things that they want to achieve. But you have to really sort of take that visualization of where you want to be as a person to achieve them in the future. And that's actually probably my next point, and something I'd love to chat to you about further, which is like visualization, because athletes is a typical one that we hear a lot of athletes visualizing before their race, how to, swim the perfect stroke, or a marathon runner knowing that every single checkpoint they need to be doing X, Y, Z down to the millisecond. How can an everyday person get into the mindset of visualization? What's the simplest way into it?
Yeah, I think the funny thing is that every single athlete uses it, and I would say it's probably the most powerful tool, visualization. But the second we talk about everyday people using it, it becomes this fluff word, visualization. I'm just coming up with wacky stuff in my mind. The fact of the matter is, and a lot of the research out there is showing us that through visualization, we can actually cause a physical rewiring and change in the structure of our brains. To the point, there's been a study out there where they were visualizing lifting a dumbbell, and there was a 22% change in strength without ever lifting a weight at all. So in terms of your goals, it's absolutely key to start rewiring your brain on a day-to-day basis to make it look like that person who is achieving those goals. And you can do it super, super simply. And the key to it is sitting down, closing your eyes to shut out 85% of the stimulus, right? So you're going inwards. And when you sit there, go into a full sensory experience of you achieving your goals. And what I mean by that is close your eyes and think about the people that might all of a sudden be around you if you had already achieved your goals. Who would you be mingling with? What can you hear? What type of conversations vividly are you having with these people? What can you see? And most importantly, what can you feel? So when you visualize, this happens in the prefrontal cortex, okay? And that's your analytical mind, the logical mind, and you can bring up these images, these visualizations. Where the magic happens, and this is where a lot of everyday people can sort of turn their noses up at it, is where you start to actually feel exactly what you would be feeling at that point in time. So whether your goal be to earn a certain amount of money, what are you actually feeling at that point in time when you see that amount of money being transferred into your account? And sitting there, visualizing that and feeling that together, you then join the prefrontal cortex with the limbic brain, so the thinking brain with the limbic brain, which is the emotional brain. And then that's where the magic happens and the rewiring happens in the subconscious, back in the cerebellum. So when that happens and you join those two brains together, it actually knows no difference between the physical reality in front of you and that which is going on inside your head. So it will start to rewire it. And because it starts to rewire it and you've already experienced it and lived it, your day-to-day decisions that you start to make at a subconscious level, that 85%, you're more likely to be making decisions that that guy who's already achieved the goals did make to achieve those goals.
Really interesting. Yeah, you can dive into that kind of stuff for all. It is really interesting, and it's good to get it in a little bit more layman's terms. But I think it'd be awesome to do like a practical example of what a lot of people do. I'm going to see if this invite works. I don't know if it will. Even if it doesn't. So comment to be healthy and happy is kind of like the comment, I'm going to drink less, run more, I'm going to drink less, save cash. If you don't actually put a more definitive answer to it, it's really hard to quantify it and to actually tick the box So what would be the practical, I guess, steps from sitting down as a first thing, or thinking about writing a list, right through to actually achieving? And we talk a lot about completion as being really important in these things, because a lot of the times we'll have a goal and we'll get 3/4 of the way and we think we've ticked that box, but we haven't. So what are the practical steps that someone who says, I want to be more healthy in 2018 has to take to actually reach a goal that they'll be happy with and feel fulfilled?
I think first of all, it would be getting clear on what that actually means. So what does that actually mean to you, and what does that look like to you? So let's just imagine for a second that you've achieved that goal. Ask yourself, what does that look like? And so you go through the steps of how do you look, what are you eating, what foods are you actually putting into your shopping basket every week, and being super, super clear. You can't be clear or specific enough with that stuff. And once you've got that, being really diligent with all of the little habits that you're doing. There's an awesome quote, how you do anything is how you do everything. So you can't kind of think, oh, I'll get away with not doing this here and not doing that there, but I'll just be diligent with that exact goal. So if you're not sticking to good habits in other areas of your life, your brain doesn't discriminate that from that area of your life. It's all one area. You will apply yourself the same way across all those areas. So make sure that, good, you've got a big goal, but start small, and with every little thing that you do on a day-to-day basis in your day-to-day routine, when you make a decision to do it, make sure you action that decision, and then don't stop in the middle of actioning that decision and leaving that task undone. Make sure you complete it. So decide, action, and complete. Whether that be cleaning the dishes and leaving halfway through the dishes because something popped up on the telly, or whatever it is at all, a task that you might be doing on your laptop for work or whatever else. Getting in the habit of completion means you're going to get more things done, which will be pushing you and edging you forward to achieving your goals and sort of developing real good habits, and do it across the board, all areas of your life.
Here's an interesting one. So like a lot of people, as I said, will write these bucket lists and then they'll probably tuck that piece of paper away. Is there any hacks that people can practically use, or any apps that you've come across or that where they're really good for just continually reinforcing, or just kind of being a little bit of an accountability buddy for you in achieving these goals?
I mean, one that we know is just letting people around you know what you're doing. So be a bit of a loudmouth. Writing those up onto a piece of paper and then putting them up on your wall. And then get in the
bathroom too. Bathroom's a good one.
Yeah.
You stare at it every day when you clean your teeth.
And it's in everyone else's face, so they'll be telling you to get it down all the time, so you'll be reminded of it. And I think getting in the habit of asking people what hobbies they've got, something that might be completely strange and unfamiliar to you, that they could sort of take you through, or whether that be pottery or life drawing or whatever it might be. But getting in the habit of asking people for what weird hobbies they've got that get you going and help you grow your list.
From a really practical perspective for what we're doing, which is drinking less, do you think there's a good bucket list challenge that could be directly associated to drinking? For example, a couple of the guys have been doing 0% beer reviews, which is kind of cool. So I think that's probably taking their mind off a little bit of the habit that they've been in for 15 years, which is drinking beer most days. I wonder if there's anything in that space where we can chip away at changing our habits rather than just going full cold turkey on it.
So do you mean like a halfway house? And
no, I'm just thinking practically from a booze perspective. So for me, like I had a seed lip the other day, which is it the world's first gin that's been distilled down to 0%. And everything about that drink makes you feel like you're drinking a gin. It's like super high-end, delicious. It smells like gin, tastes like gin. The bottle looks like a really high-end gin bottle. So, and you have it in a cocktail sort of thing. So everything in terms of the triggers in your brain going off and that habit, which potentially you're in, I feel like that's a great stepping stone to just getting on the waters. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at is there a way for people to kind of hack their way into cutting back on the booze? Because we just come through January, they might be struggling a little bit, having punched out 20 tokens or something.
Yeah. Now, I don't think there's any genius sort of, apart from knowing your why, which we'll probably go into, but a little hack similar to the gin one that you were talking about. I used to drink my water when I was attempting 101 tokens out of a wine glass, just to trick my mind a little bit there. And it will work to some extent, but I was like, fuck off, who are you kidding? But I think the number one thing that I found when I did 101 tokens, or at least a month's worth of it, was knowing exactly why you're doing it. Because at every point that whenever you get challenged with whether you should or shouldn't have a drink, you've got that inner voice that's fucking good at negotiating with you and telling you, mate, what are you doing? It's just one drink. Have one or two, and that's it. It's a Thursday night. It's a Friday night. It happens to everyone, absolutely everyone, and it'll never stop, really. But if you have a super, super fucking strong why and you attach that to something, you attach it to potentially something you want to be doing more of in your life, or you want to be getting out there and doing more adventure stuff, or hanging out with your missus more, or hanging out with your mates more and doing cool shit. Be clear on what that why is, so that every time that challenge pops up, you're putting it up against that why, and it very rarely stands a chance when you're super clear on that why. I think you've done really well in that sense.
Yeah, well, just a practical example tonight, cooking dinner for my flatmates, and it was pretty much one of my favourite things to do back when I was drinking a lot, was to have a couple of glasses of red while I was cooking, and that was kind of the flavour of the house as well. We just have a few drinks, whether it's a beer outside cooking a barbecue or a red during the winter. And I'd say that for any of you guys struggling with that was one of the hardest things to get through, especially when you're in an environment where maybe your husband or wife is still having a wine, or your flatmates are still having those beers. But it does get easier, and eventually you just brush it off. It's like, I don't like it. It's still enjoyable to have one, and maybe I will have a wine every now and then and use a token, but that kind of, that habit was a really hard one to get out of. I didn't really try and drink water or anything like that, or try and substitute it with juice or soft drink. I just had to grind it out. But I think other things like the bigger nights where you're kind of getting hangovers and that kind of stuff, for me, they were easier to cut back on. But just those little cheeky one or two beers can be the toughest. And I know that based on a few of the guys sharing their tokens and what they were saying were nays, the majority of those tended to be one beer after work, which I didn't need to have. So again, it's all about coming down to your why. So why are they doing it? If it's to save cash, do they need to have that one beer? They're still probably going to act the same as they do without the beer. If it's to do fitness, are they at the pub when they should be at the gym training or doing whatever? So again, definitely comes down to your why. And
again, I mean, we touched on it with all of the habits and goal setting and all that sort of stuff, becoming super, super clear with that. So, cool, I need to save cash. How well is that going to sort of fend for itself coming up against, I want to have a drink or two? Oh, well, you can save some cash later in the weekend when you won't do this or do that. But if then you go a layer or two or three deeper as to why you need to save cash, which might leave you at, well, I need to save cash so that I can actually have a decent fucking time with my missus or my family on that holiday. Otherwise, I'm going to be having to say no to everything on that holiday. The feeling of having to say no on that holiday versus not being able to have a beer, it's easy to see what wins out there. So, you know, a good rule is ask yourself why 5 times and re-answer that. So why, answer that, and then say why to that and answer that, and keep going deeper and deeper with the layers, and you'll get to something that will hit home pretty hard, and you'll hold on to that, and yeah, it'll make a whole lot easier to say no to that one beer.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point on diving deeper, because if you are saving for a house or something like that, then saving for a house is, yeah, you kind of have a figure in your head. But if you're saying, I'm saving for a house in X location and I want it to have these windows or whatever it is, then that you've got a really solid picture in your brain about what you're trying to achieve. So yeah, I think that's an awesome point.
Then imagine the backlash if your missus says, why can't you afford this house?
Oh, because you had too many beers with the boys, got on the punt, etc., which are all great things in moderation.
Yeah,
we all love them. So Dan, on a personal level, and tell us a little bit about the stuff that you're doing with your community, yes, and also your course that you've got coming up as well, which is pretty cool.
Meditation course?
Yep.
Yeah, sweet. So we've got a Facebook group called the SN Tribe where everyone kind of posts their lists up, and it doesn't have to be 52 new experiences, 52 weeks, which gets pretty stressful, but 12 in 12 months or 8 in 8 weeks. At the moment, we have a collaboration happening with Mache, which is a red balloon but on steroids and with much cooler experiences. And we're doing 4 experiences in 8 weeks, so one every 2 weeks in a group environment. So we kind of feel like one in every 2 weeks isn't too often to be in the way. Yeah, we're just training the elite muscle, and we know that new experience positively translates into other areas of our life and goals we want to achieve. So we're just promoting that and having a neuroplastic party. Yeah, I've got a 10-week meditation program. It's a meditation and mindset program that kicks off on the 18th of February. And yeah, super fun. Lots of fun and games, but also learning how to meditate often, and then to self-regulate throughout the day. So to be able to find yourself in any situation where you might be frustrated, angry, whatever emotion it might be, and bring yourself back to neutral at any point. But yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So last year, when we were doing the tokens as well, obviously a smaller group, we had some crossover with Yes And. So there was a challenge where you got to bucket list 5 things, and then your 6th thing that you put down on the list got subbed with someone else. So pretty interesting way to look at a bucket list as well. And so that accountability thing came back there. So checking in on how far you got with your list, and if there was any assistance you could get from that community. So yeah, if you want to like drive into the bucket listing stuff and get a bit more motivated on that side of things, definitely join Dan's group there. And if you want to learn more about meditation or his particular course, which is in Sydney, yeah, get in touch with him. He does remote stuff as well. So you'll be hearing a lot more from him through the year, and we're going to be doing lots of work together. So it's going to be fucking sick. I hope everyone's had a really, really good January. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you want to direct message me, that's one of my favorite things, is to get back to you. And if you've got any questions that are directed at Dan, put them on the wall or send it to me and I'll flick it on Dan, or contact him direct. He's in the group as well. So yeah, I hope this was valuable. Some bangers in there for achieving your goals in 2018, and let's fucking do it. You sick. Oh! Lettuce.